Chapter 2 The Birth and Sacred Thread Ceremony of Lord Kalki. Sutta Goswami said, Thereafter, by the order of Lord Brahma, all the demigods sat in front of him and then explained how the observance of religious principles was declining at an alarming rate in Kali Yuga. After hearing these words, saturated with anguish, Lord Brahma said, Let us all approach Lord Vishnu. We should praise him with our prayers, and so he may act for our welfare. After saying this, Lord Brahma took all the demigods and went to the abode of Lord Hari, known as Golok. There he offered prayers to the Supreme Lord, informing him of the plight of the demigods. After hearing everything in detail, lotus-eyed Lord Hari said, O Brahma, rest assured that I will soon descend to the earth and reappear in the village known as Shambhala. I will take birth in the house of a Brahmana named Vyas from the womb of his wife Sumati. My mission will be to eliminate the wicked Kali with the help of my 4 brothers. O demigods, your expansions should also take birth on this earth to assist me in my mission. My consort, the beloved lotus-eyed Kamala Devi, will also appear on this earth, having the name Padma. She will be born from the womb of Kaumundi, the wife of Brihadrata, the king of Singala. O demigods, you should not delay. Take birth on this earth. Later on, I will entrust the responsibility of ruling the earth to 2 powerful kings named Maru and Devapi. I will then again establish Satya Yuga and thus reinstate the principles of religion as they were before. Rest assured that I will return to Vaikuntha only after destroying the poisonous snake Kali. After Lord Hari assured the demigods in this way, Lord Brahma, surrounded by the other demigods, departed from his own abode. From there, the demigods returned to their respective abodes. O greatly powerful Brahmana, thereafter, with a desire to make his appearance within this world in a human-like form by his own transcendental potency, the Supreme Lord Hari, the Supersoul within the heart of everyone, entered the village of Shambhala. Meanwhile, in due course of time, Vishnu Yasa's wife Sumati became pregnant, so that all auspicious symptoms began to appear in her body. Thereafter, all the presiding deities of the planets, stars, and constellations began serving the lotus feet of the child within her womb. On an auspicious day, Lord Hari, the master of the universe, took birth within this world. At this time, all the lakes, rivers, oceans, mountains, demigods, and sages, and indeed all the moving and non-moving living entities, became filled with ecstasy. Every living being began to display symptoms of happiness upon the appearance of the Supreme Lord. The forefathers danced in ecstasy. The demigods sang the glories of Lord Hari. The Gandharvas played musical instruments, and the Apsaras danced with great jubilation. In this setting, Lord Hari incarnated within this world in his form as Kalki on the 12th day during the fortnight of the waxing moon in the month of Vaishakha. Upon seeing the beautiful baby, the hearts of Vishnu Yas and Sumati became filled with great happiness. When Lord Kalki appeared, Mahasati was his nurse, Ambika cut his umbilical cord, and Savitri cleansed his body with the water from the Ganga. On the auspicious day of Lord Kalki's advent, Mother Earth showered nectar in the form of an abundance of milk, and the elderly ladies blessed the child with auspicious words. Lord Brahma, who knew the mystery of the Lord's appearance, hastily called for his servant, Bhavan, and told him to immediately go to the maternity home and offer the following prayer to Lord Vishnu. O Lord, please consider how this 4-armed form of yours is rarely seen, even by the demigods. Please assume a 2-armed form like that of a human being and then carry out your mission. Without delay, Bhavanadev, whose cooling body has a very pleasing aroma, went to the maternity room of Lord Kalki and submitted Brahma's appeal. When the lotus-eyed Lord heard this request, he immediately assumed a two-armed form. His father and mother were certainly struck with wonder upon seeing this wonderful pastime of the Lord. The parents could not understand the actual truth regarding their son because of being bewildered by the Lord's Yogmaya potency. They considered that their vision of the Lord's four-armed form had been a hallucination, and that all along they had been witnessing his two-armed form. Thereafter, all the inhabitants of Shambhala celebrated the Lord's appearance by performing auspicious rituals, completely forgetful of their material miseries. Having received the all-glorious Lord Vishnu, the master of the three worlds, as her son, Mother Sumati's happiness knew no bounds. She invited the Brahmanas and gave them each 100 cows in charity. For the welfare of his child, the pure-hearted Vishnu Vyas invited many Brahmanas that were expert in reciting the Rig, Yajur, and Samaveda, and had them perform the child's name-giving ceremony. At that time, Lord Parashuram, Kripacharya, Vyasadeva, and Ashwatthama came there in the guise of Brahmanas to have the darshan of Lord Hari, who had assumed the form of child Kalki. As Vishnu Vyas, the foremost of Brahmanas, gazed upon these four exalted Brahmanas, whose effulgence was equal to that of the sun god, his hair stood on end. He then worshipped these four exalted personalities, offering them nice prayers. After being worshipped by Vishnu Vyas, these four who were guised as Brahmanas, who could indeed assume any form at will, sat at ease in their respective places. While seated, they gazed at the child Kalki as he was seated upon the lap of his father. The four exalted Brahmanas offered their obeisances unto Lord Vishnu, who had assumed the form of a human being. They very well understood that Lord Kalki had appeared to rid the earth of all those who had become degraded to the level of sinful demons. The four exalted Brahmanas named the transcendental child Kalki. They happily performed the child's birth ceremony and then departed for their own abodes. Thereafter, as the moon in the fortnight of the waxing moon increases day by day, Lord Kalki grew up under the care of his affectionate mother, Sumati. Within a very short time, the Lord grew up and became a young boy. Before Lord Kalki's birth, 3 sons were born to Sumati, named Kavi, Prajna, and Sumantra. All of them were heroic warriors who always acted for the pleasure of their spiritual master and their parents. They were highly praised by all the elderly, respectable people and Brahmanas. Great saintly persons like Gargamuni, Bhagya, and Visala had also appeared in the family of Lord Kalki. All of them were parts and parcels of Kalki and his obedient servants. These exalted personalities were maintained by the king, who was named Vishvakopa. After having the darshan of Lord Kalki, all of these Brahmanas felt jubilant and relieved of their material miseries. After some time, when Vishnu Vyas saw that his lotus-eyed child Kalki was ready to begin his education, he called him and spoke with a gentle voice. "My dear child, I will now arrange for your sacred thread ceremony so that you can chant the Gayatri mantras and begin your study of the Vedas." Lord Kalki replied, "My dear father, what are the Vedas? What are the Gayatri mantras? How is it that one can become a Brahmana simply by undergoing some ritual and putting on a thread? Please describe all this truthfully." Vishnu Vyas said, "My dear son, the words of the Supreme Lord constitute the Vedas, and the Savitri or the Gayatri mantras are the mother of the Vedas. The sacred thread represents the 3 modes of material nature, which are controlled by the Supreme Brahman. When a Brahmana wears a sacred thread, he becomes highly respected within society. Brahmanas, who have duly undergone the 10 samskaras, have studied the 4 Vedas thoroughly, are qualified to protect the principles of the Vedas. Only Brahmanas can please Lord Hari by their unshakable faith and devotion. They study the Vedas, perform fire sacrifices, give charity, undergo penance, and carefully control their senses. Therefore, on an auspicious day, I would like to invite all my relatives, as well as qualified Brahmanas, to perform your sacred thread ceremony. Lord Kalki said, "My dear father, what are the 10 samskaras? Tell me how a Brahmana engages in the worship of Lord Vishnu." Vishnu Vyas said, "One who was born of Brahmin parents, who had observed the Garbhabandh samskar, worship the Supreme Lord according to the prescribed rules and regulations, chant the Gayatri Mantra 3 times a day, undergo austerities, always speak truthfully, and are patient, will happily rise above the modes of material nature and thus be able to deliver other living beings from the ocean of material existence." Lord Kalki said, "Where can that Brahmana be found who pleases Lord Vishnu by following the path of devotional service, who works for the welfare of all living entities within the 3 worlds, and who is capable of delivering all the people of the world?" Vishnu Vyas said, "At present, the pious Brahmanas have left this country, India, having been chastised by the powerful Kali, who is envious of saintly persons and who destroys the practice of religious principles. Only those Brahmanas who have not become very powerful as a result of their performance of austerity are still under the control of Kali. They are simply engaged in eating, sleeping, and acting sinfully in other ways. Thus, they avoid their duty to perform Vedic rituals. Such Brahmanas are sinful and powerless because they whimsically engage in the service of Shudras. Thus, they are completely unable to protect themselves from the influence of Kali." When Lord Kalki, the maintainer of the devotees, who had taken birth with the desire to destroy the influence of Kali Yuga, heard these words of his father, he underwent the sacred thread ceremony and then left home to live at the ashram of his guru. Thus ends the translation of the 2nd chapter of Shri Kalki Puran. Hare Krishna.